Howdy, shipmates. It's me again. I'm Patrick Goodman. I am a freelance writer. I'm a contributor to a lot of role-playing games over the last 20 years, most notably Shadowrun, and most notably for purposes of this little YouTube channel, Star Trek Adventures by Modiphius Entertainment. I say this for those who are just joining us. I think most of you know me already. Welcome back. I know it's been a long time, but that's kind of the story of my life. There's, as usual, a lot going on. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for investing your time and interest in me. If you're new here, please do all the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. Tell your friends, they'll tell their friends. It's, it's YouTube's little pyramid scheme. But it does help me out. It gets me noticed by more people. That being said, everybody, I've got a brand new thing that I'm going to ask you to do. A few weeks ago, I did a soft launch over on my Facebook page of my Patreon. Link for that is down in the description. Down, yeah. You'd think I'd never done this before, but sometimes it feels like I've never done this before. But I do have a new Patreon. It's not, to get rich or anything, but one thing I've been learning as I've been doing this whole YouTube thing is that you got to keep your software up to date. You've got to keep your hardware up to date. Sometimes you just have to buy snacks. Dr. Pepper, I'm looking at you. You could make this so easy on me. Sponsor me. Because I'm a walking testimonial to your wonders. But to be a little more serious for a moment, we do have a Patreon, and I'd like to call out my very first patron, who, started up during the aforementioned soft launch on the Facebook page. Thank you, Lars DeSenza, for your enlistment at the commander level. Right now, just about everything that happens on this channel is because Lars told me to, because he's my only patron. If you want to have a say in that, hit the link below and join up. No obligation. I'm going to be doing this anyway. I think you guys have figured out that I'm stubborn, if nothing else. I'm certainly not timely, I'm afraid, but I am stubborn. If you haven't picked it up by the thumbnail, I'm not sure how much harder I could have hit you over the head. But we are, in fact, going to be talking about the Star Trek Adventures, the first non-core type release for 2nd edition, the Star Trek Adventures Technical Manual. Now, this has a big soft spot in my heart because I've got a long history with technical manuals regarding Star Trek. As you can tell from this big pile, and I'm not sure this is even all of them. I know there are a couple things that are sitting hanging out back there. I'll pull them down in a minute. But it all started with this bad boy. but this book, not this specific volume, that sadly, after being worn out by my feverish little preteen brain, perished in a fire in an apartment, God, 30 years ago. But the first one of these I got from my dad. My father was a big Trekkie from the get-go. He really enjoyed the show for as far back as I can remember. I know when we were living in California shortly before he and my mom broke up, he had a model of the Enterprise hanging in his office at the house. And after they split up and he retired from the Air Force, he was down in College Station, and he was pursuing his master's degree, and he was not going to be able to get away for my birthday, which is in April. They were gearing up for exams, or he had some kind of project. I don't know what all was involved in the Texas A&M data processing master's program, but he was not able to get away. He made efforts every year to get away for my birthday and my sister's birthday, but he was not going to be able to make it the year that I turned 10. However, he knew that I had inherited his love of Star Trek, so he sent me this. And he also sent me this. This is not the original packaging. This is not the original set of blueprints. But he sent me those. That turns me from a casual fan, if, you know, a fervent casual fan, into a Trekkie. That's where it all began for me, and that's been a mumble years ago. A lot of you know how old I am, so you know how long ago that particular book was gifted to me. And after that, I pursued things like that like crazy. The motion picture era found me pursuing. You'd think I'd never done this before in my life. I have. These guys, which I recently had to replace the Spacelight chronology. I'm not sure what happened to my original. I don't think I lost it in the fire, but I might have loaned it to a friend who then vanished into the night. Don't really quite remember. And it kept going. The Next Generation Technical Manual. The Deep Space Nine Technical Manual. And on and on. I've got the Enterprise Haynes Manual on my Father's Day gift list. I had never had the Haynes Manuals. This was a birthday or two ago. But you can see we've done this technique. I love these things. Everything I've written has had that or the Star Trek Encyclopedia or the chronology involved. I've had big piles of books. But this is all what I would consider technical material. And I love it all. So that is why coming into the release of the Star Trek Adventures Technical Manual, I was elated to see this thing offered up. I had no idea. Just because we freelance for Star Trek Adventures does not know we know. The words are hard. Just because we freelance for Star Trek Adventures does not mean that we know every book that's coming out. We know the ones that we worked on. I didn't work on this one. Sadly, I would have loved to, but, what can you do? Too many freelancers, not enough projects to go around, and you got to spread the love. So, I understand why Jim did not include me on this one, but I have a sad. Yeah, I can't keep that up. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just a little disappointed not working on it, but man, reading it was an absolute blast. Spoiler alert, I liked this book. Let's take a look at some things, though. Now, it's a 136-page PDF. Take out the covers and the end papers. I think that leaves you with 130 pages. Something like that. I don't know for sure how big it is physically because the book's not out yet. The book releases, as I record this, next week. June 4th is when they should start shipping, if I remember what Jim said correctly. Don't hold me to that. I might have misunderstood. I'm sure someone will let me know. But it's going to be about the size of this Haynes manual, which is 130 some odd pages. So, quadrant book size. Division book size. To let you know, the end papers are, as often happens, a work of art unto themselves. The design team and art direction are just... there we go. Whoops. Other way. Here we are. End papers. The back end papers. We had tricorders and such up front. We've got weapons and some communications and some other stuff. Like, mugs. And various weird tools. I don't know if you noticed up front, but we've also got Jankum Pog's Multimit, his cybernetic hand. Again, Dr. Pepper. So misunderstood. So here's the, let's do a quick rundown. The intro, which tells us not only what's in the book, but some of the things that have entered the world because of Star Trek. because there are a lot of direct connections to things we have seen on screen that has appeared in real life. Everything from iPads to Bluetooth earpieces. And of course, the art is pretty exemplary all the way through. Now, this is chapter 1. I always look for the character stuff first, and I really love this because they kind of outdid themselves. It starts off with 10 new career events that lean into engineering and science. I love this. I love expanding character development and character generation options. And I really hope that this is a sign of things to come in other supplements, because I think it's just a fantastic idea. But then they add a few new talents, a couple each for like augment and cybernetics. I think both of these are second edition revamps of first edition talents. I know that analytical recall is, because that's something I use in one of my characters from Captain's Log when I did the conversion over to first and second edition. I'll put a video link up there for that in case you're curious. But you've got a couple of talents each for most of the divisions. You've got things that they can use, alternates to talents for characters like Spock or Tilly, and some ideas of where to go with that. Now, I know earlier I said, this was a second edition book, the first really non-core type of product, because previously we just had like the quick start and the starter set and the core rule book, which are all just basically core rule type entry points to the game. This is the first real supplement for second edition. But even though it says second edition, this is almost entirely system agnostic. I mean, service records are specific to second edition, but you could easily add them on if you were so inclined to first edition ships, because it's a very modest bonus, and it gives some character to the ship. I've thinking that I'm going to use this anomaly magnet service record for my starship Seneschal in my Captain's Log game, which, for those long-suffering among you, I do intend to get back to. I've got a long list of things that I have to get done. My patron is telling me to. A few new starship talents, a lot of which have to do with the new weapon type, which is moved over from, I think this is something that Al did for Utopia Planitia. It might have been for Federation Klingon War, but anyway, Al Spader did these rules initially, and they got converted over to second edition. I'm of a mixed mind on it. I'm not super into as much as I like a good, starship battle. I'm not real fond of mines, but there are plenty of uses for them in the game. That's just my hang-up. And And there are a bajillion types of mines. And then you've got some talk about various kinds of propulsion. You got transwarp. You've got the protostar drive. How to implement it into your game. You got things like quantum slipstream. Some of this stuff is things that didn't quite belong in the core book, but they're growing pretty important. Quantum slipstream is getting very popular post-Prodigy. Then there's other, advanced technologies as we start getting into these chapters. The big deal is, my ADHD kind of distracted me. This book is almost totally system agnostic, edition agnostic, because a lot of it is discussions about equipment and weird things that can happen. And each chapter, as we start getting into some of the various forms of equipment in the closing chapters, there's almost no rules tech in this. It's explaining what the stuff does. It explains, where it is, how you can use it in your story, and almost, matter of fact, I think every chapter has a table about what could go wrong with it. This thing is ideal as a really fun addition to Captain's Log, because here you've got more probability matrices. But there's very little rules text, because the rules for almost all this stuff is covered elsewhere. Things like the EMH, pads. What can go wrong with pads? Oh, don't get me started. Communicators. What can go wrong with communicators? This is kind of a big deal. I know a lot of players who are themselves in wheelchairs, and I think it's great that they have characters needing some kind of transportation device, a wheelchair, artificial legs, cybernetics. Uniforms going back as far as the Enterprise era and as far forward into the 32nd century. Diplomatic assets, things like the Universal Translator and the What Could Possibly Go Wrong table. Diplomatic complications. Well, a lot of things can go wrong. But I really I love these little sidebars. Did I miss something? Did I miss one earlier? Oh, yeah. These personal logs. Don't breeze over these. Read them through. All the personal logs kind of form one complete short story told by almost everybody in the crew of the USS Challenger. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. What could possibly go wrong with the diplomacy? But, let's see. There's almost no stats in here. Everything that is even remotely rules-based is a probability matrix, some kind of random table to help you as a GM come up with things on the fly. Or, you as a player deciding, I wonder if my thing has this problem, and rolling on this. There are a couple of these tables that I don't recommend just toying about with because they're brutal, but we'll get to that in a minute. A section on distress calls and distress call protocol. And then we get into scientific equipment. Probes and pattern enhancers, tricorders, and very little in the way of stat blocks. The retinal tricorder. As a player of stuff in the 32nd century, I was so happy to see this and things like it. Matter of fact, there is, I think I may have already shot past it, but, I'm hasty like that sometimes. Where'd it go? Somewhere in here. Here we go. It is on page 42 and 43. This is a 2-page spread of 32nd century technology and how it differs from stuff from earlier eras. And that I whizzed past this the first time. Mea culpa. That was wrong of me. I should not have been going quite so fast, but this has really helped me with my Captain's Log game. As I was saying, I play in the 32nd century. Let's get back to where we were. More diplomatic stuff. A section on other political entities and their uses of science. A lot of neat medical stuff, especially if you are dealing... If you've got a character playing a doctor or a nurse, this is a great chapter because it gives you things like this, drugs and treatments, which I tried to come up with for the STA2e core book, and I'm proud of the work I did, but it's not quite what I had in mind. All sorts of genetic and cybernetic things, implants, and stuff of that nature. Stories about engineering. And the various kinds of engineering and all the various tools and such that go into that. One, two, three, four. 4 pages about phasers. And why one type is different from another. Which you could take this chapter and make an entire adventure out of, the dozens of types of phasers that are listed, because there are also a lot of things about disruptors and other weaponry. Various kinds of tactical gear. And who doesn't love an Oberth hauling an asteroid in a tractor beam? Yep, better be very careful with that thing because Oberths are fragile little suckers. Then you start getting into things like sensors, shields, propulsion, communications. Again, the various kinds of weapons that go on a ship, things that can go wrong. But things that can go wrong with propulsion systems. Be very careful, because some of the warp drive complications are terrifying. So are some of the transporter complications. And, you know, if the idea of complications with your life support doesn't scare you, there's something wrong with you. And we're almost at the end of the book. Matter of fact, we are, for all intents and purposes, at the end of the book. And amazingly enough, this last personal log brings me right back to my dad. Dad served 20 years in the Air Force. And after that, he worked for nearly as long with the space program. After he got his master's, he started working for various space shuttle contractors. And I've shrunk. That's better. Yeah. Yeah, the air piston in my chair is needing some work. I don't want to replace my chair. The chair is comfy. It just settles a lot. It's annoying. But getting back to this, and one, because he'd followed the space program since its inception, before I was born. Dad wanted to be an astronaut. And he got disqualified because he had gout. And they grounded him. He was allowed to fly just exactly enough to maintain his flight rating, but he was not on an active flight program shortly before I was born. I don't think he was an active, consistent pilot, which, you know, broke his heart. He loved flying more than just about anything. He was really good at it too. But one of the phrases he used a lot, and it was a phrase that kind of originated with the space program, as I understand it, and it was a mark of high praise from him. As, you know, he would call people he was really impressed with, he would call them a steely-eyed missile man. And as I was reading this last personal log that ends the text of the book, it has one of the NPCs referring to another NPC as a steely-eyed missile man for solving a problem. And I don't know. I don't know if I was just in a particularly vulnerable place or what, but that made me feel really, really good. It brought a tear to my eye. And I was real happy to see that. And all those personal log sidebars were written by Dayton Ward. And Dayton, if you're watching this, thanks. You gave me a fond memory, even if you weren't trying. Anyway, this book is a great place for people who are not particularly familiar with Star Trek to pick up what exactly a lot of the rest of us are talking about. Longtime gamers don't have to worry about looking for stats because most of them are in the core book already. On a 10 badge system, I'm giving this one a 9. It would probably rank a 10 if it had had some space frames, maybe a few more talents, both for characters and for ships. But, page count is a harsh mistress, and I get it. I understand why it didn't have all these things, but I would really have loved those. But that's the only thing I can really hold against it, is there wasn't enough of it. So I'm going to give this one a 9. And I am going to call this one wrapped up. Thank you once again, everybody, for showing up, sparing some time, listening to me ramble about this thing. Thank you for letting me ramble a little bit about my wayward youth as a very young Trekkie. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. And if you are inclined to help me out in any way, shape, or form on a monetary basis, I've got tip jar links if you want to make a one-time payment down in the description of this video. And if you are inclined to become a patron like Lars, well, that link is also in the description. In the meantime, guys, again, thank you for coming by. I hope you enjoy this book as much as I do. Pre-order links are in the description as well. I will update the video with the drive-through link once it has a standalone PDF, as I'm recording this sometime next week. In the meantime, live long and prosper, guys. And thanks once again for coming by. Good night.